one and I stand on that. You and me, babe, that's black on black.
It used to be, guys, Don and Rachel, that Americans could hide under desks and put their covers over their heads and pretend as if the world didn't matter. Things that happened over there wouldn't impact us. It seems like this Hamas Israeli, I can't call it a conflict. I don't know what to call it. I know what to call it, but I'll call it something. Is impacting our election cycle. It appears as though people are holding President Joe Biden, accountable for the way in which he's handled it, and it will probably impact him. And I'll start with Rachel. Was this something that you predicted?
Well, no, I had no idea that Hamas was going to, go into Israel and conduct this giant terror attack. But I will tell you this, my job is focused on extremism and like misinformation, disinformation, issues on the right. But it's not that I was unaware that this was a percolating issue. Social media, for all of the good it has done, has also opened the American mind directly to the world, right? And some of that's great, but some of it also can end up with a very targeted, propaganda effort. So in other words, like, I knew this was a problem on the left. It was one I was hoping that we could leave percolating while we dealt with saving democracy and then turn attention to, but we're going to have to turn attention to it now. And I'll be putting something out in January that talks a little bit about what to expect in 2024. This will be one segment of it, but let me tell you, I was sleeping better about 2024 before this happened. It's certainly nothing. You don't want to have something that divides your coalition heading into the election, which is why avoiding a primary was so key to us being able to win in 24. We didn't have 5-6 candidates slinging mud and $100 million of waste and internal attacking for a year. And I was feeling so great about that until this. And now, anytime you have a base that's divided about something, especially our base, which is less tribal, less hyperpartisanship, less, big picture focused, we're in big trouble. So it's not something that I'm relishing, and it's certainly going to complicate the 2024 picture some.
Don, your thoughts?
I think everything Rachel said is correct. I have gotten to a point where I'm probably at a 3 on the worry meter. And I don't even want to say the word worry, because it's not worry, but I'm at the point where the Israel-Hamas war is starting to show up on my radar as something that will be a determinative factor in progressive voting blocks. And I think that the way I see it most is young people of color who identify as anywhere from progressive to far left, expressing extreme disappointment in Biden-Harris and other members of Congress, the predominant voices of the Democratic Party, the leftist wing of the party, the voting bloc, whether or not they identify as members of the party, the leftist wing of the voting bloc is starting to raise alarms about mainstream Dems not calling for a ceasefire, not doing enough to protect Palestinian interests broadly, and primarily those of Palestinians, citizens in Gaza who are being, killed in this conflict. I share their sentiments in terms of the plight of the Gazans. And frankly, I think that most African Americans do. That said, this is a sober and sad yet stern reminder to all of those who find ourselves typically voting Democratic that we ain't never, nor do we in 2024 have the luxury of being single issue voters. It's just not something that is characteristic of the broad big tent that makes up Democratic Party voters. I didn't say Democrats, but people who tend to vote Democratic. We ain't never been united on anything. We just know that all things considered, I would rather go toe to toe within our tent than have to deal with them, because they would have none of the three of us who are participating in this conversation experience the fullness of the American experiment. And so, am I disappointed? I think that Biden-Harris could have gone a little bit further, a little bit earlier in calling for a ceasefire, even though, we're getting there. Am I upset about some other things? Sure. We have never and will not somehow acquire in the next 12 months the privilege of being single issue voters. So get on board and let's push our elected representatives to do what we would like to see them do, but get on board.
I think though now is, I struggle with this because if not now, when keeps coming into play. We need to have a conversation because this big tent that you're talking about, I believe that this Israeli-Hamas conflict, whatever you want to call it, I have words for it, has exposed something in the Democratic Party. And as I listened to you, Don and Rachel, talk about Democrats and the left, I wince a little bit because I believe the vast majority of us don't identify with any of those terms. I think that the MAGA people, they're very firm. It's a very firm. But I feel like even me, I don't necessarily identify with being a Democrat because I can't really define that. Right? Is it defined by the DNC? Is it defined like who defines what it means to be a Democrat in this country? And I think therein lies our issue. Right? There's not a. I feel like there's a little tiny clique making decisions. Like even the Biden Harris, I knew immediately that was the wrong response given the climate, but it was very clear to me that they're not on the ground talking to people because there's no way in hell you would just come out wholesalely, blindly, and not acknowledge the humanity of the 2 million people that have been asked to depart a place with no place to go and think that was going to land. I want to play something. Loree Daniel Favors is on these airwaves on 126 SiriusXM Urban View. She has an amazing show at 10 a.m. Eastern. She has some things to say that I think were so poignant and so well. She's a lawyer like you are, Don, and I think Rachel dabbles in the legal stuff. She knows some things. But Loree is the director of the Center for Law and Social Justice at Medgar Evers College in New York. And she spoke about this today in a way that I was like, these are the conversations we should be having. Smith, play it.
I'm seeing all of these folks who are saying, my Muslim friends, my Muslim American family members, they're not going to vote for Joe Biden. They're not going to vote for the Democrats because of what's happening. And again, at one point I was saying, you got to vote for Joe Biden because otherwise we're going to have Donald Trump. But then when I thought back again, like if, as I was saying earlier, if the nation of Israel had, as historically could have happened, had been placed in Kenya or Uganda, shout out to Instagram, y'all joining us for the first time. If Israel had been located in Uganda or Kenya, and what we are seeing happening now were happening in the continent of Africa, I would be so offended by people telling me, well, you got to vote anyway. Like if I'm having a moral, visceral reaction against voting for the current party in power because of my disagreement with their foreign policy, because of the way it impacts me and my people, I would be so offended by people telling me, but you got to vote for him because if you don't, Trump's going to win. Now, we know that that's true. Like we know that is a true thing. We know that Trump already said people didn't believe he was going to put in a Muslim ban when he said he was going to put in a Muslim ban in 2015. He came in 2016. Boom. First thing he did was Muslim ban. So the obvious is obvious. But what I need us to recognize is as opposed to arguing with people who have a personal connection to these issues in ways that many of us, we have an intellectual issue to it, we have a humanity issue to it, we have an integrity issue to it, but it isn't personal to us in the same way that it might be personal to someone who grew up with family in Palestine, right? The 3 young gentlemen who were college students, mind you, who were shot in Vermont for being Palestinian, speaking Arabic, and wearing garb that clearly indicated they were Palestinian. Like, it would hurt me so much to realize how ridiculously awful the response to that had been as compared to how we are seeing colleges show up for students of other religious faiths. And so I don't think we should be spending a whole lot of time trying to convince people who have that sort of personal connection to this issue that they are going to have to come out and vote and do a thing that morally they are simply not able to do. I do instead think that we should keep having conversations about what happens here to the rest of us if we don't show up, because I'm going to need somebody else in that community to handle that ministry. It's not my ministry. It's not your ministry. Stop trying to convince people who got a personal connection to these things in ways that you don't, that we can intellectualize around, but they cannot. That ain't your ministry. Let somebody from that community go into that space and have that conversation, because we are not trusted messengers in that space. Y'all know I believe in some trusted messengers.
Are there any trusted messengers? Do we? Rachel, who are the trusted messengers? Who could deliver the message?
I mean, I think it comes down to a few core people, with big platforms. I mean, Mehdi Hassan and Ali Velshi probably would fall into that bucket. I'm not prepared with a list of trusted messengers, right? And I get the frustration, right? I mean, on both sides, I get the frustration because we spent all of 2015 and 2016 telling young people, if you don't vote for Hillary Clinton, terrible things are going to happen to real people. They didn't, and terrible things happen to real people, right? So I don't think, but I agree. I think it's going to have to come. I don't think this is the moment to have that. In other words, I don't think this is the moment to have this conversation. I think this is an issue. It's hot right now, and next year, we'll have to deal with it. But I mean, at the end of the day, I'm personally getting a lot of heat on that because my position is, if you don't vote for Joe Biden, you are consigning every Muslim in America to deportation, to having their social media harvested to make sure they're pro-American. And if they're not, they're getting booted out, dude. Okay. Like, that's the reality that the Muslim community is facing, not to mention the frustration with Biden and Harris and the response to Israel coming from the far left, mostly based in humanitarian feelings, right? It is nothing that Biden and Harris would face if they abandoned the state of Israel. If they, had responded in a different way. People aren't thinking about what would happen on the other side of the electorate, where the cause for Palestinians is not something that is, very high up on the salience thing, right? So, we're in a position, Biden's in a position he can't win. What the base is asking, what the base of the Democratic Party is asking for, is something that is so toxic in terms of national security that it would basically hand the election to Donald Trump, right? And and if he doesn't give it to him, there's going to be some segment of the electorate that just refuses to forgive him for it. So it's like I said in my intro, it's a problem. I mean, it's not a problem. It's definitely a problem. We had a unified base focused on the threat of the fascism from the Republican Party, and now we don't. So it's a massive strategic problem.
Yeah. I mean, I watched today, there's a funeral for Rosalind Carter, seeing the wheel Jimmy Carter in, and Amy there, Michelle Obama, Melania Trump, not dressed in black, on message, completely on message. I was thinking about maybe that was the last president we had with integrity. Jimmy Carter did things and made decisions. He wasn't, of course, perfect, because none of us are. That was for the good of the future, from solar panels on the White House to, to just making the hard decisions, even government cheese, subsidizing the farmers, doing things that just, for the better of humanity. And I think about, like, where are those decisions? Everything's political. Everything's like, oh, is this going to hurt me in the polls? Or is this going to be good for the polls? As opposed to, is this good for us? And then let's figure out who can get the messages out there, because right now there's a blurred line. Media is not trusted. The cable news, they don't even get ratings. Like, there are people like you and Don and others who have platforms that we can just beat it every single day, which you do. But just, in this platform here where but it's behind a paywall. So we got to get it out of the paywall into people's ear holes. But this is, I think, a crisis of conscience that we're having as a nation, because there's no due north, and there doesn't seem to be anybody with the moral compass or fortitude that we can even say, oh, that person, I don't agree with them, but I know they care. Your thoughts, Don? Nothing? Okay.
No,
I got more to talk about. Shoot.
It's this one is interesting because I usually come on your show and we do some calisthenics before we hop into the big kid stuff. But here we are.
All right, you want to talk about Diddy? We could talk about Diddy. I got that on here.
That's even worse than this.
What you want? What you want to talk about? I got that one.
I gotta get back with Rachel. I mean, Rachel said so much, but again, so I watched our last segment, which I think was our first and only segment that we did together. I watched it in preparation for this, Rachel, and you are extraordinarily brilliant at what you do. The problem is you look at it from the perspective of a practitioner of what we do, our shared profession. And most people who vote Democratic have no connection to the machinations and operations of what you and I do every day, pulling the levers of operational electoral politics, right? And, you know, I'm not sure I completely agree with Sister Laree, in as much as she basically made the opposite argument from what I was saying. We don't have the privilege of being single issue voters. She says I would be personally offended. Rachel says, no, we got to, or people will die for real. And everybody's right. But the reality of being a political operator is somewhat the reality of how Democratic campaigns work, which is that they are a constant push and pull of two things. Number one, retaining the coalition you have. And number two, winning the fight to bring new people into the coalition. So I would urge and I would hope that the people Laree speaks of who have a personal connection and would feel repulsed by the obligation to vote Democratic in this moment, I would hope that they are a minority enough of the Democratic coalition such that they can be overcome by the new people we have to bring into the process. And if you think that's hard, well, we have data to know who turned 18 since 2020. And what are we doing to cultivate them as Biden voters? Did we cultivate them and bring them into the midterms in 22, right? We know who these people are. And what is the Biden message for young people? What is the Biden legislative agenda and history at this point, 4 years in, for young people? And how do we bring them in to offset the properly disillusioned, otherwise progressive voter who we have lost to the Israel-Hamas war? They're not unreasonable for not voting with us, as Sister Laree points out. But as a Democratic operative, we can't condemn them. And we probably shouldn't even be spending our time beating them over the head, telling them, come on, nonetheless. We should probably be finding the voters to offset them and bring them into the process.
I think those young people are those voters too. I think 866-801-8255.
Mark Lamont Hill, he's older than me. So, it ain't.
No, but I'm saying that the young people are more inclined to look at this conflict through a different lens than you and Rachel. They are.
There's no doubt about that. But Karen, here's what I would tell you. Your average 22-year-old in wherever right now, like it's 12 noon on the Pacific Coast, so school, work, college, wherever, high school, they don't pay any attention to news and politics. Now they may have this issue and they may have an opinion, a strong issue about it, but generally speaking, they are busy going to bars, going to football games, going to band, doing life. Like I know this because I was young and I didn't pay attention hardly at all to politics until I was in my 20s. Okay. So young people, to me, the key is our message lift with them is to let them know that their very freedom that they're enjoying to go have sex and drink and do the things that they want to do, that's on the Republican Party's chopping block, right? It is part of their platform. They've installed a guy who could be the preacher of the House better than be the Speaker of the House, right? So like for what what the book is designed to do and what my advocacy is designed to do is to get people to understand just getting your average tuned out 22-year-old to know that that the Republican Party eliminated abortion and has plans to do it more. That's a huge message lift, right? And if we can do that, if we can find a way to tell these tuned out kids that actually we're in a situation right now, and this situation is going to steal their freedom away, not other, you can make it about others, but mostly about them, right? That generation has the most to lose if we collapse into a fascist dictatorship. They will never enjoy the America that, the three adults in here have experienced if they let Republicans win. And, at the end of the day, I think it's hard. If I was this voter looking forward, like the Republican Party's position was to level Gaza, to truly do indiscriminate leveling. They wanted to go wipe the thing off the map, right? That's the sentiment coming out of the right now. So I think it behooves us in places like Michigan and Detroit to make sure that there's part of the strategy is devoted to making sure American Muslims know what they stand to lose under a Republican win.
I hope 866-801-8255. I'm hesitant, right? Because again, sitting here every day, I'm hearing people of all ages, not just young people, get to listen to people. And these are, most of this listenership is of a certain age. You know, they've seen some things. And I think there's fatigue. I think there's a lot of fatigue. It's like, we just keep showing up. We showed up in Georgia. Okay, we did that. All right, Saber Democracy. Okay, we got to do it again. Okay, Raphael Warnock. Y'all gonna put up Herschel Walker? And it was close. Okay, we're gonna show up again. Okay, we got Biden in. All right, now you telling me what now? I don't think Trump's gonna be on the ballot. Personally, I don't think he's going to be there in 2024 for us to even consider, which is gonna be a mistake because there's a lot of focus on Trump. And not the ideology, not the things, like you said, Rachel, that are going to be taken away. And I think the Democrats are doing a disservice focusing on Trump and not that. If that is the game plan, don't focus on Trump. Focus on the things that are taken away, and focus on the things, not Biden, but the things Biden administration has done. The Biden administration has done. You know, we're talking about insulin and more medicine being, regulated, and the price being capped on certain things, student loan debt, infrastructure. Like, that should just be like greens, beans, tomatoes. Like, you need Shirley Caesar to come in and give a laundry. I just gave y'all a damn good idea. Let Shirley Caesar sing all of the things that Biden has done, and then hit that. I promise you, it will go viral, and then it will be remembered, because we remember anything over lyrics, including my booty hole brown, my coochie pink. We know that because it's over a beat.
Hey, there will be no, as a St. Louisan, as the United States ambassador to the Republic of St. Louis, I will accept no sexy red slander, and I am happy to talk about that.
That's not slander. I just said we know that her coochie pink and booty hole brown over lyrics. We know about it. Just throw the Biden administration things over lyrics. Get Shirley Caesar the way Red Lobster went and got her. Red Lobster went and got Shirley Caesar to do a daggone. Come on, y'all, be creative. Come on, this gonna be.
Karen, you're right though. At the end of the day, what I've been doing all week is trying to show people Google Trend data, because I use Google Trend data in my book to show people like how out of touch we are with everybody else by being in touch. Okay, because we know what's happening, we know how the government works, we know who the major players are. We are freaks of nature, right? So using Google Trend data a lot, but I've been showing people all week like the difference in interest on the NFL versus the Israel-Palestine war, right? So like the interest is like, not 10 times, it's 1,000 times bigger for the NFL. Okay. Like, that's America, right? So and that's why you've hit on the right thing. The only way to save ourselves, in my opinion, is pop culture, right? Taylor Swift, the A-list celebrities. The reason why is they have access to the young voters. They're the only people that do. We can buy that access with paid digital, influencers, blah, blah, blah. But one tweet from Taylor Swift is worth thousands of those,
yes.
Right? Because like, honest to God, the reason why is, she's at 100 million followers. 90% of them had never even heard of Roe repeal or abortion getting repealed or anything like that, right? So just getting them to know, hey, this terrible thing happened and it's happening, and who caused it, is such a massive, massive lift that our ecosystem has never been able to match their ecosystem on, right? So, it comes down to, we need people who are like Beyonce and celebrities talking about democratic crisis, making it clear, not bullshit about how both sides are extreme and, whatever. No, clear. The Republican Party is going to get rid of the Constitution and the rule of law, right? And we need celebrities to take that message to the masses, because there is no other delivery mechanism aside from paid targeted ads, which are extraordinarily expensive to run.
Do you know who Shirley Caesar is? Rachel?
No, I'm sorry, I don't.
Right. This is my point. No, it is not. She's very cool. She's like 80-something years old. But this is my point. Y'all go to Beyonce and Cardi B. That's how you lose. That's how you lose every time. You're looking at the zeitgeist wrong.
Okay.
Shirley Caesar has if y'all throw something on a track with Shirley Caesar, it's going to have way more sway and get into people's psyche, because it's so off the beaten track that y'all not even checking for it, right? You don't even know what moves this culture. Oh my
yeah,
goodness,
no
I'm so
doubt, no
frustrated.
doubt.
Oh.
And guys, like I used to subscribe to Rolling Stone so that I could still like sound somewhat cool to my college
No,
students.
that was
Right?
never going to do it. That won't do it either.
Yeah, but like at least I knew who like the new
Hang
bands
out
were.
with
Like
some
if
black
I listen to
people.
contemporary music, I don't know any of
Oh
the
my
artists, right?
God.
So like we're the wrong people, in other words, to design that. But
Yes.
yes, you're right. That's where it's at. We have to be TikTok. TikTok has done so much to shape the opinion of young generations on Palestine. So it goes to tell you, if you go in there with a budget and a plan, you can shape public opinion using TikTok of the young voters that are hardest to reach, right? So TikTok is probably, to me, the most important tool. And I'm not saying we don't utilize it. We definitely don't utilize it the way that it should be, as Karen just pointed out.
So do you have Jamie Harrison's ear? You know, like I disinvited him from being on the show, so I doubt he'll come back. And I don't really want him on because there's too many talking points. I can't do it.
We've had this
What?
discussion before.
Did we have it on mic? Do we have it on mic or off mic?
We have
had
it both. We have had it both. And I just want to say, I want to assist in bridging the gap because Brother Jamie is a good dude.
Oh, I agree.
From SC.
I never said he wasn't, but I
just want to say,
too many talking points. Stop
both
it.
you and he are too important to the culture to have this loggerhead.
There's no loggerhead. I respect my audience enough to not have somebody come on and blow smoke up their ass. I will not do that. So I rather say that publicly. So if he can come on and have and I think he thought he was having a regular conversation when he told us he didn't vote in this primary. That was a mistake too. But I lie. Don't come on these airways and say you didn't vote. But that point that I'm making is, if he is really about this life, go get Too Raw, Too Real, Kenny Walden, who will cuss and be very irreverent, but he's going to get your message out because he's been doing it. Pay him to do that. Get Reese Colbert. Pay her to do that because she's going to reach places y'all will never reach. Yeah. And I feel like that's the out of the box thinking. It's not even this program. I'm not even saying come. Hey, but how about donate? You know, when y'all giving your ad buys, instead of spending the money on the Republicans, bring it to Urban View. At least you know that's money well spent. We're at least carrying the message. Damn. All right, I'm gonna move on. 866-801-8255. I'll let y'all off the hook. And if you want to play behind the scenes, Don and Rachel, feel free. I have an open seat, but don't come here.
I do want to tell you though, Karen, like you take away Jamie Harrison out of that chairmanship of the DNC, because I do have part of his ear, right? Like he has made a shit ton of reform. We have won 2 election cycles that I honestly don't believe we would have won without the leadership that Jamie put in the DNC, pushing this reform, strategic reform bucket closer and closer. And in my opinion, he's probably been the most successful DN chair we've ever had.